All right, so this is part 2 of parallel lines and transversals. We talked about last time when we have 2 parallel lines and they're cut by a transversal, then you have 8 angles that are formed, and we have a few relationships that happen, and these were the ones that we discussed. First, corresponding angles have to be congruent. So as a reminder, corresponding angles would be like 1 and 5 are corresponding. They're on the same side of the transversal and they're in the same position. And there are others as well. Alternate interior angles are also congruent. So things like 3 and 5 would be alternate interior angles. Alternate exterior angles like 1 and 7 are also congruent. And then same side interior angles are supplementary. This would be like 3 and 6. Those are same side interior angles, and they're supplementary, meaning they add to 180 degrees. So that we discussed in part 1. And then just as a quick reminder that also vertical angles and linear pairs are congruent, or linear pairs are supplementary. So just keep that in mind as you're looking to find things as well. Okay, so today what we're going to do is use the things that we talked about last time, but now add in some algebra. So this says find x if L is parallel to M. So line L and line M are parallel. So if they're parallel, now I'm going to look at these 2 angles here. Notice that these 2 angles here are both in the same position and both on the right. So that makes them corresponding angles. We know that based on this previous slide that we talked about, corresponding angles are congruent. So I know that these have to be equal to each other because they're in corresponding positions. So I'm going to say 5, I guess I need my pen, there we go, 5x minus 2 has to be equal to 58. Okay, now I'm going to solve this. So add 2 to both sides. I get 5x equals 60. Okay, and now I want to solve for x by dividing by 5 on both sides to cancel out that 5. Remember inverse operations, so x equals 12. So now it says find x. Well, I did find x, so this is my answer. We're good. So in order for, if L and M are both parallel, then x would have to be equal to 12. Okay, so it's introducing just a little bit of algebra to what we already know. Okay, these lines are turned a little bit. My transversal in this situation is this line right here. So these 2 angles are on the same side, and they're both inside both of these. And again, we know that L and M are parallel. They tell us to us right here. So this would be same side interior angles. Now, if you recall, same side interior angles are not congruent. They should add together to be 180. So if I say 9x plus 2 plus 133, that should equal 180 degrees. Okay, so now I'm just going to simplify this. So remember, you want to combine like terms first. So I'm going to say 9x plus 2 plus 133 is 135 equals 180. Okay, and now to solve, I'd subtract 135 from both sides of the equation. You get 9x equals 45. All right, and then lastly, divide by 9. On both sides, we get 5. So in order for those, that to be true, in order for L and M to be parallel x, that means has to be 5. So x equals 5. Okay. All right. This time, my transversal is right here, okay? And I have this angle and this angle. We know that L and M are parallel. So that means these two angles here are alternate exterior angles. Remember, abbreviated AEA. They're alternate exterior angles, so that I know that they're congruent. So I'm just going to say that 8x minus 77 has to be equal to 3x plus 38. Okay, so now I just want to solve that. So I'm going to get all my x's on one side. Remember, you can get rid of whichever one you want, but I'm going to get rid of the 3x. So then I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, that makes this 5x minus 77 equals 38. Okay, and then add 77 to get rid of that negative 77. Oops, add 77. 5x, this cancels out, equals 115. Okay, and then divide by 5, divide by 5. Type that into the calculator if you need to. That should be 23. And that's my answer. X equals 23. Okay. All right, hopefully this is starting to make some sense. I got one more in here, and this is just a little bit trying to just throw a little bit of a curveball at you. This one says find x and y if L is parallel to M. So we still know that L is parallel to M, but I want to find both x and y now. Okay, so we can do that. I want to look at these over here. I see I can't use these two to start because one has an x and one has a y. So I want to start with the two that have x's in it and solve for that first. So these are alternate interior angles. Okay, so that means they have to be congruent because L is parallel to M. So that's how I'll start. We're going to say 8x minus 31 is equal to 6x plus 3. Okay, get all my x's on one side. I'm going to move all of my x's to the left, so I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. And that gives me 2x minus 31 is equal to 3. And then add 31 to both sides. And then lastly, divide by 2. Okay, so now we have x equals 17. Okay, so I'm going to, let's go here. Okay, so I want to plug it in to this one because I want to know what that is. I know that this one and this one added together should give me 180, but I need to know what this is first. So let's figure that out first. So if I go 6 times 17 plus 3. So I'm gonna, you just take your calculator, go 6 times 17, you get 102 plus 3. So that gives me 105 degrees. So this angle right here is 105 degrees. I'm just gonna write that in here. Okay. Cool. Now I need to know what this is. So there's a couple of different ways that you can think about this, but I want to try to make it as easy as possible. I first am going to figure out what this angle is. I know that this one plus this one has to be equal to 180. They're same side interior angles. So that means these two have to be supplementary. So I know if I know that this is 105, I should be able to find what the other one is. So that means this angle here should be 180 minus 105, which is 75 degrees. Okay, so I now know that this has to be 75 degrees. Cool, but I also need to solve for y. So now I could say 5y plus 35 is equal to 75. Okay, and then just solve that. So I'm going to subtract 35, you get 5y equals 40. Divide by 5. Y equals 8. Okay, so I know, I guess I erased the other one. We had that x was equal to 17. I know that x is 17, and then I use that information to get y, which is 8. And so a little bit of a couple steps to that one, a little bit trickier one, but still doable, just using the same kind of skills that we already had. All right, so now you should be able to do this assignment. All right, good luck.